The mahogany table shook as a fist slammed down, sending coffee splattering across pristine legal documents. That's not what our father wanted, and you know it. Across the table, ice-cold eyes stared back, unblinking. What he wanted stopped mattering the moment he signed these papers. What matters now is what's legal. The tension in the room had been building for hours. 6 siblings, once inseparable, now positioned like chess pieces across the boardroom. 3 on each side. The empire their father had built over 40 years. Hotels stretching across 4 continents, shipping contracts worth billions, real estate holdings in 17 countries, hung in the balance. "We have the shareholders' support," said the woman at the head of the table, her voice steady despite the chaos. "By this time tomorrow, you'll be escorted from the building. All of you." The oldest brother laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You really think it'll be that easy? That we'll just walk away from what's rightfully ours because you outmaneuvered us for a few board seats?" A crystal paperweight flew across the room, shattering against the wall. The youngest brother stood trembling, his tie askew, face flushed with rage. "You manipulated him when he was sick. He could barely remember his own name, and suddenly he's signing away controlling interest." "Sit down," hissed his ally, tugging at his sleeve. "This isn't helping." Security guards shifted nervously by the door, hands hovering near their communications devices. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sparkled, oblivious to the empire crumbling within these walls. The woman at the head of the table straightened a diamond cufflink. "Your theatrical outbursts won't change the board's decision. The vote happens at midnight. Your personal belongings will be packed for you." "And the Tokyo acquisition?" asked the middle sister, her voice barely audible. "Will proceed without you." Phones buzzed simultaneously around the table, stock prices falling in real time as rumors of the family rift spread through financial circles. Billions evaporating with each passing minute. The lawyer in the corner hadn't spoken for nearly 40 minutes. He'd watched silently as accusations flew, as decades of resentment bubbled to the surface, as threats became promises. Now he cleared his throat, and 6 heads turned in unison. "There's something none of you know," he said quietly, placing his fountain pen precisely parallel to his leather portfolio. "Something your father insisted I keep secret until a moment exactly like this one." The siblings' expressions shifted from anger to confusion. "What are you talking about?" demanded the youngest sister. "We executed the will 3 months ago." The lawyer's fingers trembled slightly as he reached for his briefcase. "This isn't about the will." He withdrew a sealed envelope, yellowed with age. The siblings stared at it as if it might explode. "Before I open this," the lawyer continued, "I want to be clear about what's happening in this room. You're fighting over an empire built by a man who sacrificed everything to create it. And in the process, you're destroying the only thing he actually cared about, this family." "Spare us the lecture," snapped the second eldest. "Open the damn envelope." The lawyer's eyes narrowed. "Very well." As his fingers broke the seal, the tension in the room became almost unbearable. The document he withdrew was thin, just 3 pages. But as he began to read the first lines aloud, the blood drained from the faces of all 6 siblings. "No," whispered one. "That's not possible." Another shot to their feet. "This is a trick. It has to be." But the lawyer continued reading, his voice growing stronger with each devastating word. By the time he finished, the siblings weren't looking at each other anymore. They were staring into space, recalculating everything they thought they knew. The empire they'd been fighting over, the hotels, the shipping contracts, the real estate, suddenly seemed different, tainted. "This changes nothing legally," said the woman who'd been so confident minutes before, but her voice had lost its edge. The lawyer returned the document to its envelope with practiced precision. "Perhaps not legally, but I think we both know it changes everything else." He stood, gathering his belongings. "You have 24 hours to come to an agreement among yourselves. After that, I'm obligated to make this public. All of it." The threat hung in the air like smoke. 6 siblings, now united in shock if nothing else, watched as he walked to the door. Before exiting, He turned back one last time. Your father knew this day might come. He prepared for it. The question now isn't who gets control of the empire. The lawyer's eyes moved from face to face, studying each sibling in turn. The question is, how far are you willing to go to keep your father's darkest secret from destroying you all? The door closed behind him with a soft, final click. Elena Blackwood sat alone in her father's study, the leather chair still molded to his shape even 3 months after his death. The family estate felt like a mausoleum tonight, empty rooms echoing with ghosts of conversations, arguments, celebrations. 38 years of being Richard Blackwood's daughter, and she still couldn't decide if she'd ever truly known him. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. 17 missed calls from her siblings. 63 unread messages. The family group chat had exploded, then splintered into private conversations, alliances reforming in real time. She ignored them all. Instead, she stared at the photograph on her father's desk. The 6 Blackwood children on a yacht in the Mediterranean, arms around each other, squinting into the sun. Elena traced her finger across their smiling faces. That trip was 15 years ago. The last time they'd all been together without an agenda, without the weight of the empire pressing down. What did you do? She whispered to her father's empty chair. The lawyer's words still hung in the air. 3 pages that changed everything. A secret that could destroy not just the business, but their very identities. Elena had been the first to leave the boardroom after the lawyer's departure. No dramatic exit. She'd simply gathered her things and walked out while her siblings erupted into fresh accusations. They'd always called her the Ice Queen behind her back, the controlled one, the strategist. But they hadn't seen her hands shaking in the elevator. They hadn't watched her vomit in her private bathroom when she reached her office on the 60th floor. They didn't know that the empire she'd fought so viciously to control suddenly felt like a poisoned chalice. She opened her father's desk drawer, pushing aside Mont Blanc pens and leather-bound notebooks until she found it. A small brass key she'd seen him use only once. The safe behind the Monet. Her fingers trembled as she crossed to the painting, swinging it aside to reveal the steel door embedded in the wall. Would the contents confirm what the lawyer had revealed, or offer some escape from this nightmare? Before she could insert the key, a notification lit up her phone screen. A news alert. Blackwood Industries stock plunges 18% on rumors of leadership crisis. The vultures were already circling. By morning, competitors would be calling major clients, offering stability in the face of Blackwood chaos. Decades of work crumbling in real time. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed midnight. The board vote was happening now, even as the siblings' world imploded around them. Corporate machinery grinding forward, oblivious to human drama. Elena's phone lit up with a text from her youngest brother, Mark, meeting at the house. All of us. Now. This isn't over. She should go. The logical, strategic move would be to face this head-on with the others. But for once, Elena Blackwood couldn't summon the strength to be logical. She crossed to her father's liquor cabinet instead, pouring 3 fingers of the scotch he'd favored. The drink burned going down, but it couldn't touch the cold knot of dread in her stomach. On the wall hung photographs of Richard Blackwood with political leaders, royalty, tech billionaires. A visual map of influence accumulated over decades. In each picture, that same confident smile, the trademark Blackwood charm that had opened doors around the world. Had it all been a facade? A carefully constructed image concealing something rotten at the core? The sound of the front door opening made her freeze. Footsteps in the marble foyer, then moving purposefully toward the study. I thought I'd find you here. Jackson, her oldest brother and fiercest opponent in the succession battle, filled the doorway. His tie was loosened, his normally perfect hair disheveled. For the first time in years, he looked like the brother she'd grown up with rather than the enemy she'd been fighting across boardroom tables. The others are waiting, he said, but made no move to escort her out. Let them wait. Elena took another sip, gesturing to the decanter. Drink. Jackson hesitated, then nodded. She poured him a glass, and they stood in uncomfortable silence, the tension of their earlier confrontation still crackling between them. "Did you know?" she finally asked. "Any of it?" Jackson shook his head slowly. "No. But I've suspected something. For years." "What do you mean?" He crossed to the bookshelves, running his fingers along leather-bound volumes their father had never read. "Remember when I worked in the Singapore office? I found some irregularities in the accounting. Money moving through shell companies, ending up in places it shouldn't." Elena's grip tightened on her glass. "And you didn't tell me?" "I told Dad." Jackson's laugh was hollow. He fired the entire accounting department the next day, brought in his own team. When I pressed him about it, he said sometimes protecting the family meant making difficult decisions. "That was right after Mom died," Elena said quietly. "You were different when you came back from Singapore." Jackson's jaw tightened. "We were all different after Mom." The unspoken accusation hung between them. Their mother's death had been the fracture point, the moment the siblings began to drift into opposing camps. Elena aligned with their father, learning the business from the inside, while Jackson had grown increasingly distant, challenging decisions, questioning strategies. "He was setting us against each other," Elena said, the realization washing over her like ice water. All this time. A chill ran through Elena despite the scotch. Those words, they'd all heard them growing up. Their father's favorite justification for his ruthlessness. Protecting the family means making difficult decisions. "The Yun Chang deal," she said suddenly, a memory surfacing. 10 years ago. Jackson turned sharply. "What about it?" Dad pulled out at the last minute. No explanation. "We lost millions, but he didn't seem to care," he said. "Sometimes you cut off a finger to save the hand," Jackson finished. "I remember." They stared at each other, years of competition momentarily suspended by shared realization. The Malaysian resort project, the Brazilian mining venture, the satellite communications contracts. How many of our business decisions were actually cover-ups? Elena's mind raced through a decades-long portfolio, reassessing everything she thought she knew. "He covered his tracks," Elena said quietly. "All these years, all these deals, and now we're left holding the bag." Jackson drained his glass. "If this gets out." "When," she corrected. The lawyer was clear. 24 hours. "The board vote won't matter if this breaks." Jackson set his glass down with enough force that the crystal rang against the wood. "We're talking about criminal charges, international investigations, asset seizures. Everything disappears. Not just the company," Elena said. "Our personal reputations. The children's future." Jackson's eyes widened slightly at the mention of his twin daughters. For all their business rivalry, they shared one common ground. Family meant everything, even a fractured one. "What's your play?" Jackson asked, the familiar competitive edge creeping back into his voice. "You've always got to play." Elena was about to answer when her phone buzzed with a text. "Unknown number. Asterisk, I have more than just those 3 pages. Meet me. Alone. 1 hour. The place where your father first taught you to swim. Come alone, or everything goes public tonight. Asterisk." She felt the blood drain from her face. "What is it?" Jackson moved closer, trying to see her screen. Elena locked her phone. "Nothing. Board politics." She set down her glass with a steady hand that betrayed none of her turmoil. "You're right. We should join the others." Through the window, she could see headlights approaching, more siblings arriving, drawn to the family estate like moths to a flame, each carrying their own version of the truth, their own grudges and suspicions. As they walked toward the door, Jackson caught her arm. "Elle, whatever happens, whatever Dad did, we need to be united. This isn't about control anymore. It's about survival." She looked into her brother's eyes, searching for sincerity, for the boy who taught her to ride a bike and defended her at school. Could she trust him now, after everything? "The place where Dad taught me to swim," she said suddenly. "Where was it?" Jackson's brow furrowed. "What? The country club, I guess? Or maybe that villa in Greece?" Elena slipped her arm from his grasp. "No. It was the lake house in Vermont. Dad took me alone that summer when Mom was sick. You weren't there." Why does that matter right now? It doesn't. But it did. Because whoever had sent that text knew something intimate, something only family would know, or someone who had been watching them very, very closely for a very long time. Elena followed her brother to the car where their siblings waited, her mind racing. In 1 hour, she would meet a stranger who held their family's fate in their hands. And she wouldn't be telling any of her siblings about it. Because despite Jackson's call for unity, Elena had learned one thing from her father that the others never had. In the game of empires, there was no such thing as family, only assets and liabilities. And sometimes, protecting yourself meant making difficult decisions. The black Escalade, carrying the Blackwood siblings, pulled into the circular driveway of the estate. Tires crunched on gravel as rain began to fall, droplets catching the security lights like shattered diamonds. Inside, the tension was suffocating. Someone talked to the board, Vanessa, the second eldest, demanded. Tell them to postpone the vote. On what grounds? Elena asked, her mind still on the anonymous text message burning in her pocket. I don't know, a family emergency? Death in the family? Oh wait, that already happened and none of them cared. Vanessa's laugh was brittle, dangerous. In the rearview mirror, Elena caught Jackson's eye. For once, they shared something, a secret knowledge that went beyond tonight's revelation. The house loomed before them, windows glowing amber against the night. Through the rain-streaked glass, Elena could see figures moving inside. The lawyers, the advisors, the executive team, waiting for direction that none of the siblings could provide. We have to control the narrative, said Cameron, the financial strategist of the family. Always calculating, always 3 steps ahead. If we get ahead of this. Get ahead of what exactly? Snapped Mark, the youngest. We don't even know what this is. 3 pages of what? Accusations? Evidence? Dad's confession? The lawyer was deliberately vague. Elena checked her watch. 40 minutes until her secret meeting. She needed an exit strategy. Inside, the great room had transformed into an impromptu war chamber. Laptops open, phones constantly buzzing, legal pads covered in frantic notes. 2 family attorneys and the chief financial officer huddled in one corner, voices low but urgent. The stock is in freefall, the CFO announced as the siblings entered. Asia markets are panicking. We need to issue a statement immediately. Saying what? Jackson demanded. That everything's fine? That the company isn't built on, he stopped abruptly, aware of the non-family members present. Elena moved to the bar, pouring water instead of the scotch she craved. She needed clarity tonight. Through the French doors, she could see more cars arriving. Senior executives summoned for crisis management. I want everyone who isn't family out, she announced suddenly. Now, protests erupted immediately. Ms. Blackwood, with all due respect. Out. It was Jackson who roared the command, backing his sister for the first time in years. Everyone out except immediate family. Now, the room cleared reluctantly, leaving only the 6 Blackwood siblings staring at each other in tense silence. Where's the lawyer? Asked Sophie, the middle sister who'd remained mostly silent until now. Always the observer, the quiet one. Shouldn't he be here, explaining what the hell that document means? I've called him 8 times, Cameron said, waving his phone. Straight to voicemail. Elena felt a chill. The lawyer vanishing immediately after dropping his bombshell couldn't be a coincidence. Does anyone have a copy of those 3 pages? She asked. Blank looks all around. He read it to us, but didn't leave it, Vanessa said. Clever bastard. Mark paced the length of the room, his nervous energy palpable. So we're just supposed to take his word for whatever Dad supposedly did? This could be an elaborate shakedown. You saw his face, Jackson countered. He wasn't bluffing. Elena's phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. Asterisk 30 minutes. Come alone, or the Times gets everything by dawn. Asterisk. I need air, she announced abruptly. Don't make any decisions until I'm back. Where are you going? Jackson moved to block her path. The East Gardens. To think. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Their eyes locked in silent communication. Jackson suspicious, Elena resolute. Finally, he stepped aside. As she slipped out the side door into the rain, Elena heard the argument resuming behind her. Good. Let them fight while she sought answers. She didn't head for the gardens. Instead, she made for the garage, grabbing keys to her father's vintage Jaguar, the one vehicle without GPS tracking that the family security team monitored. The engine purred to life, and Elena peeled away from the estate, headlights cutting through the darkness. The Vermont lake house was 90 minutes away. She'd never make it in time, but she knew who might have answers in the meantime. Across town, the sleek glass tower of Blackwood Industries stood illuminated against the night sky like a beacon. The board meeting on the top floor had concluded 15 minutes earlier with a unanimous vote. Not that it mattered now. Elena badged through the underground parking, grateful for the emptiness. The executive elevator required fingerprint authentication, one security measure she hadn't yet revoked from her siblings during the power struggle. The 60th floor was deserted except for Julian Winters, her father's former chief of staff, now her most trusted advisor. He looked up from a mountain of documents as she entered. "The board voted in your favor," he said without preamble. "Though I'm not sure it matters anymore." "It doesn't." Elena locked the door behind her. "Tell me about Singapore." Julian froze just for an instant, but long enough for Elena to catch it. "What about it?" "Jackson found accounting irregularities there 10 years ago. Dad buried them." "Why?" The older man carefully removed his glasses, cleaning them with methodical precision. "Your brother should have left it alone." "What was Dad hiding?" "The better question is, what wasn't he hiding?" Julian's smile held no warmth. "Your father built an empire, Elena. Empires aren't built on quarterly reports and shareholder meetings." "Stop with the cryptic bullshit, Julian. I have 17 minutes before I need to be somewhere, and I need to know what I'm walking into." Julian studied her for a long moment, then walked to the wall safe behind her father's former desk. The combination clicked under his practiced fingers. "Richard gave me this the day before he died." He withdrew a thin red flash drive. He said if anything happened to him, anything unexpected, I should destroy it immediately. Elena's pulse quickened. "But you didn't." "I'm a curious man by nature." "What's on it?" Julian's expression darkened. "The truth about Blackwood Industries. The truth about your father. And the truth about why your mother really died." Elena felt the floor tilt beneath her. "My mother died of cancer." "Did she?" The room seemed suddenly airless. "Give me the drive." "It's not that simple. These secrets protected the company for decades. Once they're out." "Give me the drive, Julian. Now." He hesitated, then placed it in her palm. "Your father would be disappointed." "My father's dead." As she turned to leave, Julian called after her, "The lawyer who came to you today. He doesn't have the full picture. Whatever he showed you, it's only the surface." Elena paused at the door. "How do you know which lawyer came to us?" Julian's smile returned, enigmatic and unsettling. "We've been monitoring all of Richard's old associates since his death. Standard protocol." "Whose protocol?" "The board's, of course." But something in his tone made Elena's skin crawl. She slipped the drive into her pocket and hurried out, the weight of it burning against her thigh like a hot coal. The Vermont lake house appeared abandoned, windows dark, no vehicles visible. Elena parked the Jaguar a quarter-mile away and approached on foot, rain soaking through her silk blouse, designer heels sinking into mud. The memories hit her as she neared the cabin. Summer days learning to swim in the frigid lake water, her father's strong hand supporting her, his voice encouraging even when she failed. Before the empire consumed him, before whatever secrets had twisted him. The front door stood slightly ajar. A trap, obviously, but she had no choice. "Hello," she called, pushing the door wider. Silence greeted her. The cabin smelled of dust and disuse. No one had been here in years. Her father had sold the property after their mother died, unable to bear the memories. Elena had never understood why. Now she wondered if there was more to it. Movement in the shadows made her freeze. A figure emerged from the darkness of the kitchen. "You came alone." "Good." The voice was familiar, but Elena couldn't immediately place it. Who are you? The figure stepped into the moonlight, streaming through the windows. Elena's breath caught. Rebecca. Rebecca Chun, her father's former assistant. The woman who'd worked alongside Richard Blackwood for 20 years before disappearing, without explanation 3 years ago. Hello, Elena. Rebecca's face showed the strain of recent years, new lines around her eyes, silver threading through her once black hair. I wasn't sure you'd remember the lake house. What are you doing here? Where have you been? Hiding. From your father, initially. Now from the people who worked for him. Elena's mind raced. Rebecca had been like a second mother to the Blackwood children, always present at family functions, managing Richard's complex life with effortless efficiency. You sent the text. Rebecca nodded. I've been watching, waiting for the right moment. For what? To finish what your mother started. Elena felt as though she'd been struck. What are you talking about? Your mother discovered what was happening at Blackwood. The real business behind the business. She was gathering evidence when she got sick. Rebecca's eyes hardened. Convenient timing, wasn't it? Her sudden illness. My mother had cancer. Did the doctors ever tell you what kind? Did you ever see her medical records? Or did you just accept what your father told you? Elena's hands began to shake. You're suggesting my father. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what I know. Rebecca moved to the fireplace, reaching behind a loose brick to withdraw a sealed envelope. These are copies of what your lawyer friend showed you today. But I have the originals. And more. Much more. Why now? Elena asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. It's been 3 years since you left. Why come forward now? Because your father is finally dead, Rebecca said bluntly. And because I made a promise to your mother that I would protect her children when the time came. Protect us from what? Rebecca handed her the envelope. From becoming him. As Elena reached for it, headlights swept across the cabin windows. A vehicle approaching fast. You were followed, Rebecca hissed, immediately backing toward the rear door. No, I was careful. The front door burst open. Jackson stood there, rain-drenched and furious, a gun gripped in his right hand. Step away from my sister, he ordered, aiming at Rebecca. Jackson, put that down. Elena moved between them. How did you find me? GPS tracker in Dad's watch. He gestured to her wrist where their father's vintage Rolex gleamed. The one he left you in his will. Did you think I wouldn't take precautions with everything that's happening? Rebecca's laugh was cold. Like father, like son. Jackson's eyes narrowed as recognition dawned. Rebecca? What the hell? She knows everything, Jackson, Elena said. About Dad. About the company. And about Singapore, Rebecca added. About what you found there. What you helped cover up. Jackson's expression hardened. I didn't know what it meant at the time. Didn't you? Or was it easier to look away? Take your promotion, your corner office, your share of the profits. What is she talking about? Elena demanded, turning to her brother. It's complicated. It's really not, Rebecca countered. Your father was laundering money for some very dangerous people, using Blackwood subsidiaries to clean billions in dirty money. Singapore was just one operation of dozens. Elena felt sick, and Jackson knew. He suspected, Rebecca said. Just as your mother did. The difference is, Jackson could be bought. Catherine couldn't. That's a lie, Jackson snarled, stepping forward, gun still raised. I reported what I found. Dad said it was a mistake, an accounting error. And you believed him? Rebecca's voice dripped with contempt. Or did you just want to believe him? Elena's phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Asterisk, where are you? The lawyer is dead. Car accident. Police are here, asterisk. We have to go, Elena said, suddenly desperate to escape this cabin and its revelations. The lawyer who came to us, he's dead. Rebecca didn't look surprised. They're tying up loose ends. You're next if you don't move quickly. Who's they? Jackson demanded. The board. The partners. Everyone who benefited from Richard's arrangements. Rebecca moved to the window, peering out cautiously. They let you children fight over the company because it was a useful distraction. But now that the truth is leaking, they'll eliminate the risk. This is insane. Jackson lowered the gun slightly. You're talking about our father's closest friends, business associates of 30 years. Why do you think they stayed so close? Rebecca asked. To protect their interests. Another set of headlights appeared on the distant road. Then, another. We need to go. Now. Rebecca moved toward the back door. Wait, Elena called. The flash drive. She pulled the red drive from her pocket, holding it up. Julian gave me this. He said it contains everything. Rebecca's eyes widened. Julian gave you that? Willingly. Yes. Why? Because Julian is one of them. He's been your father's cleaner for 20 years. If he gave you that drive, it's either empty or it's loaded with false information. The approaching vehicles were getting closer, moving fast without headlights now. We need to split up, Rebecca said urgently. They're coming for all of us. I'm not going anywhere with you, Jackson said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Elena's phone buzzed again. Cameron, *, police say lawyers' brake lines were cut. Sophie found surveillance equipment in Dad's study. Trust no one *. Jackson, we have to go, Elena said, grabbing her brother's arm. Now. Outside, car door slammed. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, sweeping across the cabin grounds. Take this. Rebecca thrust a thumb drive into Elena's hand. The real evidence. Everything your mother collected. Everything I've gathered since. Names, dates, accounts. Why give this to me? Elena asked, even as she pocketed it. Because you're the only one who loved Richard Blackwood and still questioned him. The only one who might do the right thing. Rebecca's smile was sad. You remind me of Catherine. The cabin's rear door opened to the woods and the lake beyond. Rebecca slipped through first, then Elena, Jackson reluctantly following. There's a boat at the dock, Rebecca whispered. Take it to the North Shore. There's a car waiting in the public lot with the keys under the rear wheel well. Red Honda Civic. You're not coming with us? I'll lead them away. Buy you time. Rebecca squeezed Elena's arm. Find your siblings. Show them everything. Then decide together what kind of legacy you want to build. Before Elena could respond, shouts came from inside the cabin. They'd been found. Go. Rebecca pushed them toward the lake path, then turned and ran in the opposite direction, deliberately making noise to draw attention. Elena and Jackson sprinted through the rain-soaked woods, branches whipping at their faces, the sound of pursuit fading behind them as Rebecca's diversion worked. The dock appeared ahead, an ancient rowboat tethered to the weathered planks. This is crazy, Jackson panted as they scrambled into the boat. We're believing the word of Dad's assistant over everything we know. Elena grabbed the oars. Dad's assistant, who's been in hiding for 3 years. Who knew about the lake house. Who has evidence our lawyer died trying to show us. As she rowed them across the Blackwater, rain pelting down around them, Elena's mind whirled with fragmented revelations. Her mother's suspicious illness, Jackson's Singapore discovery, Julian's unsettling confidence, Rebecca's years in hiding. Her phone buzzed one final time before losing signal in the middle of the lake. A group text to all 6 siblings from an unknown number. * Richard Blackwood didn't build an empire. He built a fortress to protect the guilty. Now you must decide. Preserve the lie or expose the truth. You have until dawn. *. In the distance, gunshots echoed across the water. Dawn broke over the Blackwood estate, pale light filtering through bulletproof windows. The 6 siblings sat in their father's study, faces ashen, bodies exhausted. None had slept. The thumb drive from Rebecca sat connected to the computer, its contents displayed on the wall-mounted screen. Financial records, photographs, audio recordings, 27 years of evidence meticulously compiled, first by their mother, then by Rebecca after Catherine Blackwood's death. It's not possible, Vanessa whispered, though the proof before them said otherwise. Cameron hadn't spoken in over an hour, just staring at the scrolling list of offshore accounts, shell companies, and falsified records with hollow eyes. Dad built this company by laundering money for criminal organizations, Elena said, her voice flat. The hotels, the shipping contracts, the real estate, all of it designed to clean dirty money and create legitimate-looking profits. Not just criminals, Jackson added. Dictators, terrorist groups, arms dealers. Sophie stood by the window, watching the security team patrolling the grounds below. These men outside, do they work for us or for them? No one answered. No one knew anymore. Mark paced the room, fury radiating from him in waves. Why would he do this? Dad had everything: intelligence, connections, opportunity. He could have built something real. He did build something real, Elena said quietly. Just not what we thought. She pulled up an image on the screen. Richard Blackwood shaking hands with a known diamond smuggler in Sierra Leone, 1992. The year Blackwood Industries began its meteoric rise. This was never about building wealth for our family, Elena continued. It was about power, influence, creating a network so vast and complex that no single person could unravel it. Except Mom tried, Vanessa said, her voice breaking. And Rebecca. The siblings fell silent, the implication hanging in the air. Their mother's sudden illness. The mysterious circumstances of her decline. The restricted access to her hospital room during those final weeks. She wasn't sick, was she? Sophie finally said what they were all thinking. He killed her. Jackson moved to the bar, pouring scotch into 6 glasses. No one objected this time. Rebecca's files suggest Mom discovered the truth in 2008, he said, distributing the drinks. She began gathering evidence, planning to go to federal authorities. Then she conveniently developed an aggressive, untreatable cancer, Cameron said bitterly. Elena opened another file on the screen, medical records with sections highlighted. Rebecca had a contact run toxicology tests on samples of Mom's hair after she died. They found elevated levels of thallium. It mimics the symptoms of certain cancers. The room went silent again. Their father, the man who had raised them, taught them, shaped their very identities, had poisoned their mother slowly, watching her die day by day while maintaining his role as the devoted husband. Why didn't Rebecca come forward sooner? Mark demanded. She tried, Elena said, pulling up a police report. Anonymous tip to the FBI, 2009. The investigation was quietly closed 2 weeks later. Dad's connections, Jackson explained. Government officials on his payroll. Judges. Regulators. Even law enforcement. Sophie turned from the window. That's why she disappeared 3 years ago. She wasn't fired. She was running. Elena nodded. And now the same people who protected Dad all these years want to ensure their secrets die with him. Cameron finally spoke, his financial mind processing the implications. The empire doesn't just disappear because Dad died. The machine he built still needs to function. The money still needs to flow. Which is why they let us fight over control, Elena said. They needed a Blackwood as the public face, but it didn't matter which one, as long as the system continued. And now? Vanessa asked. Jackson drained his glass. Now they're cleaning house. The lawyer was just the first. Rebecca is likely dead too. We're next, Mark said bluntly. Elena pulled up one final document. Her father's last will and testament. Not the public version read at the funeral, but a private letter addressed to his children. To my children, she read aloud. If you're reading this, then you've discovered the truth I've kept hidden all these years. The empire I built was never meant to be a blessing, but a test. Each of you possesses a piece of me, my ambition, my intellect, my ruthlessness. What you lack is what your mother had, moral clarity. Elena's voice wavered, but she continued. I never intended for any of you to inherit my sins. I created this empire as a monument to human weakness, the greed that corrupts, the power that intoxicates, the lies that become truth when repeated often enough. I thought I could contain it, control it, use it for some greater purpose. I was wrong. The moment I chose this path, I became its servant, not its master. The siblings exchanged glances, each absorbing their father's confession in their own way. Catherine tried to save me, then tried to stop me. I couldn't allow either. My greatest regret is not her death, but that I could not feel the remorse such an act should inspire. This is what the empire takes from you, your humanity, piece by piece, choice by choice. Elena looked up from the letter. He goes on to explain that he engineered the succession battle deliberately. He wanted us to tear each other apart, fighting over the company. Why? Cameron asked. Because he knew we'd eventually discover what it really was, Jackson answered, understanding dawning. And he wanted to see which of us would choose to destroy it and which would choose to preserve it. A final test, Vanessa whispered. A game, Mark spat. Even from a grave, he's manipulating us. Elena returned to the letter. You now face the choice I never had the courage to make. Dismantle what I've built and face the consequences. Or continue my work and surrender your souls as I surrendered mine. There is no middle path. The document ended with a series of account numbers, the personal fortune Richard Blackwood had accumulated outside the company's criminal operations. Enough wealth for 6 lifetimes, hidden where even his criminal associates couldn't reach it. He's offering us a way out, Jackson said. Walk away from the company, take the clean money, disappear. And if we don't? Sophie asked. Elena closed the file. Then we become him. We take control of his criminal network. We protect his secrets. We sacrifice everything and everyone who threatens the empire. The siblings sat in silence as dawn brightened to morning. Outside, their phones began ringing simultaneously, board members, executives, lawyers, all demanding directions, explanations, reassurances. We have until noon, Elena said. That's when the board expects an official statement on the company's future leadership. And the people who worked with Dad? Vanessa asked. The ones who killed the lawyer and probably Rebecca? They're just waiting to see what we do. If we go public with this, Cameron said, gesturing to the evidence on the screen, we destroy the company. Thousands of innocent employees lose their jobs. Our family name becomes synonymous with criminal enterprise. And we likely spend years in court, possibly prison. And if we don't, Jackson countered, we become accomplices to decades of crime. We continue laundering money for killers and terrorists. We betray everything Mom died trying to expose. Mark laughed bitterly. Some choice. Elena looked around at her siblings, the family that had been fractured by ambition and competition, now united by terrible knowledge. For the first time in years, they weren't adversaries. They were accomplices in a truth none of them had sought. Dad's final test, she said softly. What will the Blackwood children choose? The grandfather clock in the hallway struck 9. 3 hours until the world expected an answer. 3 months later, Elena Blackwood stood at the podium, cameras flashing as journalists from around the world crowded the press conference. Behind her, 5 siblings formed a united front for the first time in their adult lives. Blackwood Industries was built on lies, she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Today we end those lies. The stock had already plummeted in anticipation of the announcement. The financial world had been buzzing for weeks as the Blackwood empire methodically dismantled itself, selling off assets, closing divisions, transferring properties. Not the desperate fire sale many had predicted, but a controlled implosion designed by the siblings themselves. Our father left us a poisoned legacy, Elena continued. A company that appeared legitimate, but served as a vehicle for criminal enterprises around the world. When we discovered this truth, we faced an impossible choice: preserve the empire or honor the truth. Jackson stepped forward, joining his sister at the podium. Once rivals, now partners in the most difficult business decision of their lives. We chose truth, he said simply. We chose to break the cycle. In the front row, federal prosecutors nodded in acknowledgement of the deal that had been struck. Limited immunity for the siblings in exchange for their cooperation. The evidence that would dismantle criminal networks spanning 5 continents. The Blackwood children would surrender most of their inheritance, keeping only what could be proven legitimate. They would face public scrutiny, legal challenges, and the collapse of the world they had known. But they would be free. Our mother, Catherine Blackwood, died trying to expose what our father had built, Elena said, emotion finally breaking through her composed exterior. Today, we honor her sacrifice by completing what she started. In the corner of the room, a woman watched silently, her newly colored hair and changed appearance making her nearly unrecognizable to those who had once known her as Rebecca Chun. She caught Elena's eye briefly, a silent acknowledgement between two survivors. Rebecca hadn't died that night at the lake house after all. Like the Blackwood siblings, she had found a way to disappear and re-emerge when the time was right. After the press conference, the siblings gathered in their childhood home one final time. The estate would be sold the following day, the proceeds directed to a victims' fund for those harmed by their father's business dealings. "What now?" asked Sophie, looking around the emptied rooms where memories, both cherished and painful, lingered in every corner. "We start over," Vanessa said. Separately, but not apart. They had each chosen different paths forward. Mark would teach at a university in Europe. Sophie would open the art gallery she'd always dreamed of. Cameron would use his financial expertise at a nonprofit. Vanessa would travel, searching for the purpose she'd never found in the family business. Jackson approached Elena by the window, where she stood watching the sunset over the property for the last time. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. She considered the question seriously. "That we didn't see it sooner. That Mom died before we understood what she was fighting for. And now we build something true." She turned to face her brother. "Something that belongs to us, not to him." Their father's letter had ended with a cynical prediction that his children would choose power over principle, just as he had. That they would preserve the empire at any cost. His final test. His final attempt to prove that his moral corruption was inevitable, universal. He had been wrong. As the 6 siblings walked out of the family estate for the last time, they carried with them not the burden of their father's empire, but the lightness that comes with difficult choices made right. The Blackwood name would be tarnished in history, but their personal integrity had been reclaimed. 1 year to the day after the lawyer had walked into their boardroom with those 3 devastating pages, Elena stood on the shores of the Vermont lake where everything had changed. The property had been converted into a rehabilitation center for victims of trafficking, funded anonymously by the siblings from the untainted portion of their inheritance. She placed flowers at the small memorial they'd created for their mother. Not an ostentatious monument like their father would have built, but a simple stone bench overlooking the water. Elena sat, feeling the sun warm her face as she considered how far they had come. The journey from privileged heirs to public pariahs had been brutal. The death threats, the lawsuits, the former friends who had become enemies overnight. But there had been unexpected allies too, people who respected their impossible choice. Their father's victims who finally found justice. A public that ultimately recognized courage when they saw it. "We had everything and gave it up," she whispered to the memory of her mother. "But we gained something worth more." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Elena took one last look at the lake before walking toward her modest car. No driver, no security detail. Just a woman who had once been an heiress, now finding her way forward on her own terms. The empire was gone, but the siblings remained, bound not by wealth or power, but by the choice they had made together, to end what their father had begun. Sometimes, destruction is the most honest form of creation. Sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find what matters. What would you sacrifice to preserve your integrity? What empire in your own life might need dismantling? Share your thoughts below and subscribe to explore more stories of moral courage in the face of impossible choices.